I would advise you to keep your audio muted until a time comes when you participate in any of the conversation. So thank you for that. And thank you to our interpreters, Elizabeth and Jeff. Thank you for being with us today and for your service to the entire group and our hard of hearing and deaf student athletes. I'm Lou Spiatti, Executive Director of Intercollegiate Athletics, and welcome to our first and only leadership luncheon of the year. We will not be providing lunch, unfortunately, due to COVID restrictions, but this presentation should be an exceptional one and will help shape your outlook on the topic of leadership and give you insight on how seasoned leaders inspire, motivate, and help their organizations perform in a world-class manner. There will be packaged snacks and beverages available to you after this event and throughout the afternoon in the Ritter Arena Conference Room. They'll be there until they're gone. So, please drop by, stop in and grab something to drink and do what you want to do. If you want to sit, fine. If you want to move on, that's fine too. But that's available for you. They're healthy snacks. I also want to acknowledge two previous presenters, Dr. Barry Culhane, former assistant to the president, and Dr. Howard Ward, Associate Vice President for Auxiliary Services at RIT. Welcome, gentlemen. It's great to have two previous presenters in our program. And maybe you can make yourself known there just by the raise of the hand so people see you. It's great that you're here. We also have a very special guest joining us today in the person of Dr. Fred W. Smith, who was Vice President for Student Affairs for quite some time during our planned ascent to prominence in the athletics program. Dr. Smith was critical to our growth and success. Welcome, Fred. Maybe you could acknowledge with a raise of the hand as well. Glad to have you here. So the format today is as follows. I'll introduce our speaker. He will have his presentation and there'll be a Q&A after the formal presentation. You can use the raised hand icon for student athletes, and I would prefer to have it reserved for our student athletes because this is an experience that is primarily for them. And there'll be some wrap-up remarks by our speaker, and then we will move on. Hopefully this will be an hour, give or take a little bit. I'm sure this will be a very interesting one. So Tom Peoples has had a career that has been nothing short of incredible. He is a 1994 and 2003 graduate of RIT, graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering, and later a Master of Science in Cross-Disciplinary Professional Studies, Quality and Statistics. Currently, Thomas is the Senior Manager of Lean Operations Americas at the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. Hired into Goodyear and Goodyear Innovation Center in Akron, Ohio as a tire designer, tire engineer in 1999. Spent his first 5 years of his career designing large earth mover vehicle tires and original equipment for passenger car tires. 2004, Thomas moved to San Angelo, Texas to work at a Goodyear Proving Grounds, where he had several different leadership roles. In 2009, Thomas took on the role of Quality Technology Team Leader, curing final finish in Goodyear's Danville, Virginia truck and aircraft tire manufacturing facility. In 2011, he returned to Akron, Ohio as an enterprise project leader. In 2013, Thomas came back to the Goodyear Technical Organization as a team leader in customer engineering. And in 2015, moved to Brazil, where he was director of OE product development for Latin America, manager of Latin America Proving Grounds, and manager of the Latin America Customer Engineering Team. In 2017, Thomas moved back to Akron into the role of chief engineer in global tire and mold engineering. In 2018, took on the chief engineer role at Akron Test Center Engineering Technology Lab. Most recently, prior to his current role, he was a senior technical project manager in off-highway aviation, where he had the responsibility for tire design of military aircraft, commercial and business jets, and several large commercial original equipment manufacturers. While at RIT, this is of interest to all of you, Thomas ran track and field, 55-meter high hurdles, 110-meter high hurdles, and high jump. He is a 5-time NCAA All-American and recipient of the RIT Walls Olson Memorial Scholarship for outstanding contribution and leadership in student life. He was inducted in the RIT Sports Hall of Fame in 2001. While at RIT, Thomas participated in Naval Reserve Officer Training Corps, NROTC, and upon graduation was commissioned into the U.S. Navy as an officer. In the Navy, prior to Goodyear, he served in various surface warfare roles on board the USS Fletcher, DD 992, and USS Hewitt, DD 966. He's actively involved in several community-based organizations, as well as other professional development organizations in Goodyear. He is a past vice president and past president of the Goodyear Veterans Association and a graduate of the 2019 Goodyear Community Leadership Institute, and also an adjunct faculty member at RIT. Thomas is the recipient of the U.S. Black Engineer and Information Technology Magazine 2020 Stephanie C. Hill Black Engineer of the Year Legacy Awards. Currently resides in Hudson, Ohio, and is originally from Boston, Mass, married and 3 children. Tom, it's great to have you back. It's great to see you. I love the jacket. You're sporting the RIT colors.
Sir, so good morning. Good morning, Lou. Thank you for that introduction. It's always humbling to hear somebody kind of go through and read about some of the things that you've been able to accomplish. It's humbling, and I'm proud of a lot of the stuff that I've been able to do, and a lot of that started at Brick City at RIT in South Henrietta some 30 years ago. But yeah, so first of all, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to address this group, and I'm looking forward to having a discussion today about some of the things that I've learned in my journey so far. In fact, one of the things I often ask myself is, what do I want to be when I grow up? And I'm still trying to figure that out. But again, thank you, RIT. Thank you, Lou. Thank you, everybody. Looks like a pretty large crowd here. Appreciate everybody taking a little bit of time out of your busy schedule to listen to a tiger kind of talk about some tiger tales. All right. And one of the things I'm going to do is make sure I speak in a manner, and I'm going to keep checking in on the interpreters to make sure I don't go too fast, or and what I say is clear. What I'm going to attempt to do right now is share the, I need to get screen sharing. That's something I need to be authorized for. Otherwise, it's just going to be really short. So I might need to be made a host.
Okay, we'll do that.
All right, so while we're doing that, just to give everybody a heads up, Lou said we said about it. Okay, all right, let's see, let me share the right slide. That should be coming up here shortly. Does everybody see a full screen lessons in leadership title slide?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So as Lou mentioned, I have a presentation. I have about 700 slides that I'm going to go through. So we're going to need to move quickly. That's an opportunity for folks to smile. I do have some slides here, some things I'm going to present, and hopefully through the discussion, we'll discover some things about ourselves, as well as share with you some of the things that I've learned. Let's see. Let's go ahead and get on the screen. So we do have an agenda today. Go Tigers. Everybody make sure you continue to protect yourself and do the things that you need to do to keep yourself and the people around you healthy. It's kind of my safety message. We'll go through some introductions. We'll talk a little bit about leadership and then my concept of leadership. We'll talk about the what I'll call the I squared, integrity and initiative. Then I'll share with you a C story. I was in the Navy, the two things. I'll share with you a very personal trust story. And then depending on what the time is, the time management tidbit would be something that I would share with the group, depending on where we are time-wise. I encourage folks to, I guess through the chat, I can see on one of my screens, or I can see, I see faces. I would encourage folks to, if there's something that you would want me to stop and dwell on, by all means, interrupt me. I would love to make sure if you had something that you wanted to share or ask or explore a little bit more about, we take that opportunity and not miss it. One of the things that, we'll jump right in here. One of the things that in giving effective presentations, so time out, step back. One of the things that I do whenever I have an opportunity to listen to somebody speak is I make a conscientious effort to take away a couple of nuggets, a couple of pieces of knowledge that I put into my toolbox that resonate with me, that I expect that I can use later. Nugget one, right? So whenever you're going to speak to a group, know your audience. So what I would ask is, would you guys, if you could, just in the chat, answer these questions or put this information in so I get a better sense of whom I'm actually talking to. I know most of you are student athlete leaders, but I'm actually more curious, and if there's more information here, I'd love to see it. And I don't know if I'll be able to get to the chat, but that's okay. While we're doing that, anybody want to just sort of shout out a couple of where they're from, their major, their year in school? Come on, we're gonna have a long day.
All right,
This is
I'll go.
interactive.
So my name's Chase Lewis. I'm from Trenton, New Jersey. My major is computer engineering, and I'm a fourth year.
Okay.
I'm on the men's basketball team.
Right on.
I'm Marissa and I'm from Batavia, New York. I graduated last year with a chemical engineering degree and I'm a sustainable engineering master's student right now and I'm in track.
Okay, right on.
I hurdled too.
Okay. I'm liking you more and more. All right. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep going. So thank you. So as Lou mentioned, I'm Tom Peoples from Boston, bachelor's in mechanical engineering and a master's in cross-disciplinary professional studies. One of the things, I ran track and field at RIT, and one of the things that I'm proud of one of the questions I asked you to think through is something that you're proud of. And what I'm very proud of really is being in a position at this point for RIT and Lou to ask me to share some of my leadership lessons learned with you today. I'm very excited and proud that I can be here before you to talk to you. As Lou mentioned, I'm the senior manager of lean operations for the Americas. What that means is there are a lot of processes and things that we do in our technical organization that I fundamentally have responsibility for, with a team of folks that I lead a team of folks that do some pretty amazing things to make sure that as we are developing our products, we're doing them in an efficient way. Been at Goodyear for 22 years in various engineering management, leadership, and project management roles. Former officer in the Navy, 5-time All-American, and something else I'm actually very proud of as a result of attending RIT is now I am adjunct faculty in the College of Engineering Technology. So this is where we're going to start to need to be a little bit more interactive. And I'm going to want to hear folks. But what is leadership? Uncomfortable silence. There's no wrong answer. Come on, somebody.
Saying and doing what is best for a lot of the team.
Okay. Correct. Anyone else?
I would say taking initiative of what you think is right.
Also correct.
Say a true leader is a servant leader.
So you're getting ahead of me. I asked what is leadership, not the person, but we'll get there. So
Serving others.
okay, and I would agree with you, but I would also argue that not everybody looks at it that way. So just by high level definition, right? Leadership is the action of leading a group of people or an organization. This can be positional, this could be authoritative, this could be a lot of things. So again, in the light of this kind of high level definition, what is a leader? So that's your question. It's the person who leads or commands the group or organization or a country. And when I look at these definitions, I look at this and I think, okay, you shouldn't use the word in its definition, but actually when you go out there and look in the dictionary, that's what you get. What I'm going to do is share with you what it means to me. These will be kind of some of my lessons that I've observed over the years, and both in the military and in the civilian sector. A leader has the ability to get a group of people to achieve a goal, right? Fundamentally, a leader's job or responsibility, whether it's formal or not, is to get people to do something. That to me is kind of the base common denominator in leadership. They have bad leaders. Now, you can have a bad leader that uses positional authority, force, fear, and intimidation, or misinformation to achieve the goal. Historically, there are lots of, we talk about these dictators and folks that lead with the iron fist or whatever, and force people to do things. A bad leader can still be effective. Lots of very difficult and big things have been accomplished by people that we arguably in history would say were not good leaders. To me, a good leader uses his or her skill or influence to get people to willingly comply with accomplishing a goal. And I say willingly comply, meaning they're not being forced. Often a good leader isn't the positional leader. That might be leading from the troops or from the ranks, or might not be out front. A leader doesn't necessarily have to be out front. But what I really want to talk about is what a great leader is. A great leader, to me, creates an environment where the people that they have been entrusted to lead are inspired to achieve more than they ever thought possible, right? So a great leader doesn't employ any of the techniques of a bad leader, right? A great leader, when you think of the great leaders, and we'll talk about servant leaders, or reference them, Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Mother Teresa, they didn't use any of the tactics that I've identified here as a bad leader. they often employ a lot of influence in their skill, their ability to speak, their ability to create a vision. But what makes them great is they can create this vision where people believe it and are willing to do whatever it takes, often at great sacrifice to themselves. And not just, in kind of the civil rights kind of way. When you think of an organization, the great leaders in a civilian or in a company have the ability to get folks to give their all, right? To want to achieve whatever the company's goals are. When I think of, we have the opportunity to talk to student leaders who are athletes. You have the ability, your coach, or you as a captain, or you as somebody that isn't necessarily named as a leader, have the ability to get the people around you to understand the importance of whatever it is you're trying to accomplish together, and then you achieve it. Questions, comments, or concerns about at least Tom's definitions of bad, good, and great? Okay. So here's something that, again, I've observed through my time as a person out there in the world doing what I do. How, in my observation, how do great leaders do this? Any thoughts? All right.
Leading by example.
First, we'll get there too. In my experience, in the different teams that I've had the opportunity to serve, first and foremost, you have to create an environment of trust. If you as a person who is going to lead a group of other people have to, above all else, be trustworthy. If the folks that you are leading don't trust you, then it's going to be very difficult to achieve greatness. You can force things, but you can't force greatness. It's near, I won't say impossible, but it's nearly impossible. I try and stay away from always, never, and absolute words, but without an environment of trust, great things are very difficult to do. And as a leader, the way you create this environment of trust is creating and deliberately and with intention, establishing a relationship with the people. So if you are a team leader, having a genuine relationship with every individual on your team. Now, on the different groups that I've had the privilege and honor of being their leader, I don't necessarily have, we're not best friends, but I know a little bit about them. I ask them questions and I have a genuine interest in who they are. And I genuinely share things about me, such that our interaction is, we are people first, not just leader and subordinate. We are people. We have a relationship as people, and we create, and we have and that allows for this environment of trust. Critical first step. Many leaders have failed when they've come in to try and, especially if you're going to institute some sort of change or something like that, the people need to trust you first. Second, after you've established this environment of trust, it's incredibly important to also make sure there's a common vision, a common goal. What are we in this for? What is the end game? And as the leader, it is your responsibility to make sure everybody understands, and then there is some level of agreement and commitment to it. Again, many teams have struggled when not everybody on the team, even if the goal is stated, don't interpret it the same way or don't agree with it. I'm gonna make a joke here. I'm gonna say RIT football has been undefeated since 1978, right? And we have an esteemed member of that team on the call. But when we think about a football team, you might think everybody's goal is to win. And that may not necessarily be the case. I mean, if you look in the NFL right now, you might have guys out there that are more interested in their stats, right? You might have a running back that touchdowns might be important, but really, if they want that 1,000-yard season, right? That might be, when we think about the end game of having a winning season and going to the playoffs and potentially winning a championship, that goal of having 1,000-yard season might actually be in conflict with the team's overall success. Because if everybody knows this guy's a star running back, he's going to get hit hard off the line. He's going to get double teamed. There's going to be a back that's going to be on him, or a safety, right? So if you keep feeding him the ball, if he keeps talking about feed me, and you keep feeding him the ball, his goal of getting 1,000 yards is going to hurt the team because he's never going to get there, right? You got to spread it out. That would be one example, or we could use a basketball example, right? Where you got a point guard, right, who's decided that they want to, lead the league in 3-point shots or something like that. And if they keep throwing these bricks up, I mean, that's not going to end up helping the team unless they're scoring them. And even if they are scoring them, that might impact the rest of the team and the team's ability to function, because whenever he gets the ball, he's taking the three. So we all have to understand what the common vision is. And just because you say it, just because you think you know it, you really have to make sure that to the person, everybody understands it and is in some sort of agreement. You might not get everybody to agree, but they have to understand and have some sort of agreement. Great leaders demonstrate a selfless and relentless pursuit of the elimination of roadblocks for the team's success. Let me say that again. Great leaders make it their job, their number one priority, not to shine, not to demonstrate to people above them, not to do anything else, but make sure that the folks that you have that you have the responsibility for leading can be successful. Great leaders do that by making sure their teams are successful. The people have to believe you have their back and you will fight for them. You will put their needs, the team's goals, in front of your own. You can't get to that point unless they trust you. Going back to bullet one. So creating this environment of trust is really the baseline to really do any of these other things. Because if they don't trust you, then they'll be skeptical of the common vision, even if it's something different, especially if we're talking about some sort of transformation or change. If they don't trust you, it will be very, very, very difficult to articulate and get buy-in on this common vision. And it was brought up, great leaders are servants, period. Hard stop, hard return, no gray area. Great leaders serve their teams, period. And it's got to be all the time. No exceptions, no situational leadership. I mean, there is a school of thought, a school of training around what situational leadership is and how you interact with different folks on their development journey. But as far as creating this environment of trust, creating and sharing and living to this common vision, and then this selflessness and relentless pursuit of eliminating the roadblocks has to be all the time, because it takes a long time, especially with a new team, to build up this consistency. Somebody mentioned it earlier, being consistent, following through on your word. It takes a long time to get there, but it only takes one incident to erode it all. It only takes one time where you didn't live to your own principles, or you deviated from the vision this just one time, where you were a little bit dishonest or didn't necessarily communicate what you needed to communicate, either intentionally or unintentionally. It takes one time for you to then have to go back and sort of start all over and need to recreate this environment of trust. A leader must not only talk the talk, but must walk the walk all the time. There was a comment earlier about leading by example. Yes, leading by example. Your leader doesn't necessarily have to be the best at what they do. In fact, there hasn't been a role that I've had as a leader where I've been the smartest person in the room. Let me say that again. There hasn't been a role that I've been in as a leader where I've been the smartest person in the room. What I do is I establish a relationship with the team, figure out who's strong at what, make sure we all have a vision of what we need to do, and then essentially deploy people to their strengths. And that's how we achieve success. We all have this vision, and it's much like a sports team. We all have our part to play. Some people are better at some things than others, and we make sure we focus on the things that folks are good at. We acknowledge some of the things that they might not be good at, and we help them there. But in the end, if we all agree this is where we're here, and this is where we need to be, together, we close that gap to get there. And when you empower and inspire your people, they will astound you at how creative they are, how much energy they have, how much commitment they have, and what they're willing to do to meet this common goal when you trust them and treat them with respect. Any questions here? Because this was a lot. This was a lot of Tom's philosophy on how I when I take over a new team. I just took over a team. I say take over, took on a new role about a month ago. Any questions, nuts and bolts on how you do? This is important, folks.
Tom, I have a question about your experiences. And you have had to have had some failures along the way. I know
Yes.
you had to have had them. What do you attribute those failures to?
So, excellent question, Lou. When I took on the role as a technology team leader in Danville, Virginia, that was an assignment, a role that it's not that I'm not proud of or I'm not happy about. Well, I guess I'm a little unhappy about. I took on the team that was pretty dysfunctional, and what I did was, and it was a little bit of folly. So let's a little backstory. So coming out of the proving grounds in Texas, I was a manager in a team that really was very capable. They were very motivated. They all demonstrated, most demonstrated a lot of initiative. It was a management nirvana. And I spent time with that team. And then when I moved to Danville, Virginia, the team that I took over was not that. And one of the things that I didn't do as the leader is I didn't immediately adjust. I didn't adjust to the team. And what the team needed was there was not an environment of trust on the team. And really in this manufacturing environment, it's a difficult environment. It is. And I walked in with this preconceived notion that since they had been working together, they at least trusted each other, and they didn't. And I didn't see that right away. I missed that. And what that did was when I started trying to talk about the things that we needed to do, not just the day-to-day job, but how we grow our ability to contribute, to do more. Nobody bought in. And nobody, very few bought in. And there's only a team of about 8 people. And 3 were really just in any given interaction with people. You have the advocates, the people that are completely on board with you. They're ready to go day one. They don't know who you are, don't care, but they're on board. You kind of have the apathetics, the people are like, we'll see. We'll see, whatever. And then you have the assassins. And I didn't identify my primary assassin, who was a guy, kind of a curmudgeon. It's never going to work. We've done this before. You know, he really, I didn't realize that right away. And that was part of the dysfunction of the team. And this, they didn't trust each other, and they didn't trust me. So I needed to then go back and really start over with, hey, let's try and reboot. Now you never get, you only get one first impression. So by me missing that, I hurt my ability to ultimately be as successful in that role as I wanted to be. And when I left there, when I left that role, I believe the team had grown. I believe that I positively influenced the team, that this group of folks. We were able to accomplish the things that we need to accomplish, but we weren't running like a well-oiled machine. And had I approached this group differently, I believe the outcome would have probably been better. Did I answer your question, Lou?
Yes, well, Thomas.
And what I did, and great leaders also continue to learn. I probably should put this on the slide. When I left that role, I kind of put that in a toolbox, like, okay, I walked into this new team with some assumptions that were wrong. Anyone else?
I have a
All right,
question.
probably. Yes, sir.
Is there ever a time you've had a team member whose skills were adequate enough to get the job done, but they definitely could have developed their skills a lot more, but they weren't willing to because they were comfortable because they thought their spot was secure?
It's an excellent question. So the answer is that happens all the time. It happens all the time. So one of the things that, so there's a couple of things. I should probably write this down because I have a bunch of ideas sort of floating around in my head, because that's a very insightful question. So fundamentally, I believe people will rise to your lowest level of expectation. Let me repeat that. People will rise to your lowest level of expectation. So if you expect, and I'll use, I was a high jumper, right? If you expect that nobody's going to jump over 5'4", guess what? And everybody's going to be rewarded if you make it over 5'4", guess what? Nobody's going to attempt 5'6". Ultimately, there might be somebody, But other folks on their team were like, why are you trying to jump 5'6"? All you need to do is jump 5'4". We're good. Why are you making wings? So what, as a leader, you can create this environment where you accept minimal. You accept people not growing. I don't care if you've been doing this job for 30 years. The world is a different place now than it was 30 years ago. I guarantee you, the skill set that you had 30 years ago is not the same skill set you need now to do the very same job. That's a fact. Those are facts. There's no job like that. None. Pick one. I can explain to you why it's different. Something has changed, probably significantly in the last 10 years. And if we think about back when I was at RIT before the internet, right? It's a completely different world. So first, just in general, before we get to the individual, is the leader in this shared vision does not accept the lowest level, of expectation. You got to raise it, right? You've got to create a higher level of expectation of everyone. And then there will be some that will immediately say, finally, somebody's come along who recognizes that I can do more. Those folks are on the team. Then you've got some folks who are like, yeah, I need a little nudge, need a little push, need a little help. And then you got some folks who are like, yeah, I'm good, right? Well, when you create this environment where everybody's moving together and there's a sense of trust, you get that person, some peer pressure, the people around them go, hey, you know you could do more. You know you're capable of these other things. As a leader, one of the other things that you do when you develop this relationship with the people, it's not just so you can be buddies. You got to start to learn what they're actually capable of, right? You learn about the team goals. As the leader, what do I need to do to maybe shift from not just the whole team, but to this person to make sure they have what they need to achieve? Because let me make this comment also. Motivation comes from within. I can't motivate you to do anything. I can't make you do anything. What I can do is create the environment where you feel like I can, right? That's what motivation is. Leaders motivate people by creating the environment. It's not just rewards. It's not just money. It's not just recognition, but it's very personal to the person. And a great leader is going to take the time and invest in that person to understand what motivates that person. Could be time off. Could be this person. They'll be your greatest asset if you tell them that they're the employee of the month every month and give them a trophy. It's very different and it's very personal. As a leader, you got to invest that time. And what you then get, and this is answering finally getting to the question, with any given person, you yourself, anybody who's in industry, there's the work that you do, the effort that you put in, and then there's this bit at the top called discretionary effort. We all have it. Example, hey, my workday ends at 5 o'clock. Okay, so I'm just saying, for example, and it's 4:40. I could start something new that might take an hour, or I could just maybe put it off to tomorrow. It's not that big a deal. I mean, it's not due tomorrow, but it's 4:40. It's too late to start something new. That 20 minutes of discretionary effort is lost. There is a real dollars and cents value to that 20 minutes where I'm just going to go get a cup of coffee instead. Well, that discretionary, if you create this environment where you are truly leading these people and you are expecting greatness from them, that 20 minutes, not only do they spend that 20 minutes starting that, getting it done, they might go to 5:15 and get it done, right? Before they pack up and go home. When you create this environment, where people feel inspired to do great things, that discretionary effort is a no-brainer. It just happens all the time and the team improves. So that was a lot of talking. And I want to make sure I answered the question.
Yeah, you did. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, here's the thing. Even as students in the environment that you're in right now, you can employ these things. You can do these things. You can influence the people around you. Hey, you were really dogging it on that last quarter, right? It doesn't have to be a big deal. But hey, we're trying to get this 4x4 team, we're trying to take a couple seconds off. And it kind of matters, right? Or I apologize, there aren't a whole lot of the other sports that I'm really familiar with, but ultimately, you don't have to be the captain. You don't have to be the coach. If you have this shared vision, the team influences each other. But that starts with the vision and trusting where you're trying to get to. All right. Anything else here before we continue? And I've gone way over a half hour. All right. There are two things. There's a couple things.
You're good, Thomas. This is good. This is good. Keep rolling.
All right. Thank you. So this is probably what I'm going to tell you right now is probably the most important thing I learned as a leader. The two things. If you take anything away from today's discussion, this is the most important thing I've learned as a leader. Let me say that again. If you take anything away from today, these two things are the most important leadership lessons I've learned in my career. Backstory. Graduated from RIT May of '94, spent the summer basically hanging out in Rochester, then went up to Newport, Rhode Island for a basic officer school, did some other schools in Newport, Rhode Island, and then transferred and then showed up on board my first ship in November of 1994. Fresh, green boot ensign, new officer right out of school, really not knowing anything. Within about an hour of me checking on board my first ship, USS Fletcher, this crusty old chief, coffee cup in hand, RIT coffee cup in hand, literally pulled me by the collar. Now, chief is a senior enlisted. I'm a commissioned officer at this point. The enlisted, there's a difference between the officers and the enlisted, but the senior chiefs are, the salt of the sea. I say salt of the earth, but the salt of the sea. Literally pulled me by the collar, said, "Sir, do you want to be successful?" And at the time, I'm 24 years old. I'm like, "Chief, I don't know if this is a loaded question, but sure. I want to be successful." So take care of your people, take care of your people's money. And if you take care of your people, and you take care of your people's money, they'll take care of you. And at the time, again, I've been on board like an hour. A whole lot of other stuff is going through my brain. And I really didn't really internalize it. I didn't know how to process it. Again, I was a little overwhelmed. That's the reality. But what he meant was, take care of your people. Again, we start talking about this servant leadership model. Make sure your people have what they need. Make sure your people know what they're supposed to do. Make sure you have your people's back when times are tough, right? Make sure you, as their officer, as their now appointed leader, are doing the things that you need to do to take care of your people. And what I learned, that meant a lot of different things. Somebody might need, some time off to study for their next advancement exam, right? So instead of them, just working on with their job, right? We make sure they have a little bit of time so they could work on their advancement. Make sure they have the training that they need to do the job that they're supposed to do. Make sure they have the tools that they need to do the job that they're supposed to do. If you take care of them, right, then they'll do their job. I'm not talking about coddling them under the arm. I'm not talking about them. Making sure the things that you expect of them, they have, right? So this thinking forward, it's like, yeah, eliminating some of the roadblocks. Then take care of your people's money. So in the military, this is a big deal because they don't make very much money. At the time, somebody was, again, this is a few years back, they might be making $600 a month. Now, a lot of the other things that they have to pay for are taken care of, but they really don't have a lot of disposable income. Still don't. And taking care of people's money could be something like, hey, this person goes on this training trip, right? We sent them off to training and they had some out-of-pocket expenses. Oh, $100, right? They had some out-of-pocket expenses. Because this might be a young person that might not have a credit card, really doesn't have a lot of money to start with. Well, when they come back as a division officer, I have to sign off on their travel claim, right? And depending on how urgent I sign off on the travel claim really dictates how much money or when they get paid. So there are examples out there, personally dealt with them, where this young person, 19 years old, 18 years old, might have two babies at home, a newborn and a toddler, right? And if they're only bringing in $600 a month and they spent $100 out of pocket, think about that. They're making $600 a month and they spent $100 out of pocket. That $100 travel claim is a big deal to not only this young sailor, but this young sailor's family, right? And if I put this on my to-do list and get to it at some point, right, I could significantly be impacting that young person's quality of life. So taking care of their money is, if there's like an expense report that needs to be approved, get it done. You don't know what and to me as the officer, I got paid more, not a whole lot more, but that little bit of money didn't seem like that big a deal. These other things I got to do, but it was a big deal to that sailor. Another part of taking people's money, part of taking care of people's money, is part of being in the military is promotion. If you don't promote, you get kicked out. Well, you got to make sure the folks know what they need to do to promote, because if they don't, you will lose them. And if you don't create the space for them to study for the exams, to learn the practical things, they're going to fail the test and get kicked out. And that directly impacts their bottom line. So those were the two things. This chief pulled me by the collar and set me straight on, squared me away. And it within a couple of months, probably, wasn't right away, started seeing how the wisdom in these two simple things. And it's carried through my entire career. Take care of the people, and the times where I've not done that is where I've gotten into trouble, hence the Danville call. Wasn't taking care of the people by creating this environment of trust. They needed that first. Again, take care of your people, take care of your people's money. And if you take care of your people will take care of you, period. Bottom line, hard return, no gray area. All right, questions? Couple more. Actually, I got a bunch more slides, but some of them will go quick. I squared, I talk about, little things to remember. First I, integrity. The quality of being honest and having strong moral principles and moral uprightness. This is critical, right? We talk about creating an environment of trust. If you don't demonstrate integrity, you will not be trustworthy. And the easiest way to demonstrate integrity is to follow through on your word. If you say you're going to do it, period. Otherwise, don't say it. They will remember, and you will have to work hard to overcome that. Initiative, behavior, self-starting, being proactive, overcoming barriers. Personal initiative is very important in the workplace. Very easily find problems and fix them, period. Doesn't matter what your major is, whether you're sports nutrition or computer science. Wherever you go to work, whatever team you're on, whatever environment you're on, you will be more valuable to that team If you find the problems and then fix them, not find them and report them, find them and fix them. Because are you going to be the weatherman or are you going to be the rainmaker? It's that simple.
Or the sunshine.
All right. So this is this is probably gonna be the last area that I talk about because again, I'm going way over. So this will be lessons in trust that I learned from courtesy of the U.S. Army's Golden Knights. So if you've ever seen over a stadium, the parachute guys and gals actually kind of floating in with the smoke behind them and landing in the middle of the field and doing this stuff. It's the Army's Golden Knights. That's who they are. I've never had the desire to jump out of a perfectly functioning plane, but a couple years ago, I had an opportunity that I really couldn't pass up. So the Golden Knights were here, and through my association with the Veterans Association, they said, "Hey, we want you to go out and jump out of a plane." I thought, okay, I'll go do that. So here I am in this really tight suit that doesn't fit very well and pulls and pinches in a lot of places. And one of the things that while you're on the ground, you're in there, they're talking about, we have two goals for you today. You know, they're painting this picture. We want you to have one of the most memorable experiences in your life. And the second goal, which is also a very important one, is we want you to land safely, which I agree. Those are very good goals to have. While I was in the briefing in the room that's behind me there, you know, where they're talking about this is what's going to happen, this is what you should expect. And I was pretty confident. I was like, okay, this would be pretty interesting. Then we started signing all these waivers. And that's really when I started to question, like, is this a good idea, right? Because now I'm signing away a lot of things, but not so bad. Okay, I'm good. Next, we get on the plane, and this is Sergeant Gutierrez, who's standing next to me. It's a tandem jump, and he's the guy I'm jumping with, and on the way up, you know, he's explaining this is what's going to happen, and you know, and at this point, I'm still pretty confident. You know, all right, this is not so bad. I'm looking out the window. We're climbing, and he's okay. When when we get to altitude, what I'm going to need you to do is sit on my lap, and I'm going to clip these 4 clips to you. And at that point, I'm like, okay, this is getting very, very real. But Sergeant Gutierrez has done this before. We're with the Golden Knights. This is going to be okay. You can sort of see in my face that I'm not really smiling. Then we get to this true moment of trust. And I call this the moment of trust is because if you look in this picture, I'm sitting in Sergeant Gutierrez's lap, and I am holding on to straps, the straps that are on my shoulders. I am out of the plane at this point. And it really, at this point, he's in my ear like, hey, what we're going to do is going to 1, 2, and I need you to hold on the straps, and I need you, he's giving me these last minute instructions. And really, as I am looking down, I think from about 30,000 feet thinking, have I made good life choices at this point? Because I am really starting to regret. Now, there's nothing I can do because I'm not holding on to anything. I am totally and completely at the mercy of Sergeant Gutierrez. Then we have the moment of trust, or the moment of truth, excuse me, where Sergeant Gutierrez pushes us off the plane. And I did see my life flash before my eyes. I really did. I was horrified. To think that I was going to die really wasn't the right, I don't know what I was thinking. I really was just worried about me becoming one with the earth. And you could see his picture, he's loving life. But we are out of the plane at this point. And I am not in a good place. But because of the trust, because of their professionalism, because of the fact that these are the famed U.S. Army Golden Knights. We got to this point where we are free fall. Now, this is an experience that if you ever get the opportunity, there is nothing like it in the world. There's nothing like it in the world. We weren't, our terminal velocity was actually slower. What Sergeant Gutierrez has off, you can see off the top, he's got a drogue chute that basically helps him stabilize. Because I'm 225, he was every bit of a $140, right? So, the drogue chute helps him, and that was also part of the issue. I was like, I'm a much bigger guy than you, but anyway, but we fell, we free fall, we were in free fall for a while. That's me above the cloud line, and again, fantastic experience. So goal 1 achieved. Created this vision of achieving this goal of having one of the most memorable experiences of my life. Boom, check, done. Then, the chute opens and you really just start to sort of just kind of just slowly descend and sort of just, we're floating around, and you're up there for a long time, just watching the ground get closer. Goal 2 starts coming to the forefront. Like, I still want to be able to walk later, right? And it's like, okay, as we start getting closer to the ground, Sergeant Gutierrez back in the ear, hey, what I'm going to need you to do is when I give you the signal, I need you to lift your legs up, and I'm going to put you on the ground. I'm like, okay. And it's hard to see in this picture. I guess I could have zoomed it up, but if you look in, that's me. And he said, lift my legs up. And basically he landed and took a few steps, and then he sat down. And when he sat down, he put me on the ground. My landing was probably less impactful than stepping off the bottom step on a flight of steps. Like he literally just set me on the ground. So goal 2 achieved. So this really was an opportunity to talk about a practical application of creating an environment of trust, doing what you say you're going to do, and then doing it. And really, the time management stuff, the big thing is read. If you have not read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, there's some folks on here that I've talked to before. Joanne, read this book. This is a foundational book that will impact the way you look at how you achieve success. But Lou, that's my story for today. That's what I got.
This is wonderful, Thomas. And I have been in this business a long time, and I learned a lot today. And I'm sure our student athletes are just wide-eyed about the whole thing, and incredible in so many ways, in so many parts of your life. And I'm sure there is a dimension of community service and family that you are deeply engrossed in and contributing in the same way, because you don't do it in one arena and not in the other. So this is just wonderful. I want to take a moment here to make sure that our student athletes have an opportunity, if there is something that is down deep inside that they really want to ask you, and even if they don't feel it's a really important question, it is an important question. So I want to open this up a little bit. Thomas, if you don't mind, do you have any additional time at all?
I got time.
Okay.
So Lou, for students, especially Tigers, I got time.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna just pause here for a moment because there's been a lot. You've presented a lot. It's been so invaluable, even for crusty old enlisted naval people like myself. I was stationed in Newport, as you may or may not know, at one time. But at any rate, I'm going to open this up. Student athletes. Please feel free to just pitch right in and ask Tom a question.
Looks like Tyler's raised his hand.
Yeah. Is there any advice you would give your younger self from the position you are in now?
It's an excellent question. So yes, and when you say younger self, you mean younger, and that I'll just be very general. Understanding the importance of the relationship of the people, you know, as a leader. So if we're specifically talking about leadership advice, because I'll talk about another piece of advice that really has nothing to do with leadership, but with regard to the leadership advice, creating a relationship with either the people that work for you, or the people that you work for, right? What I talk about. So here's something else. The way I manage is how I demand to be managed. So I don't it's very difficult for me to tolerate somebody that I work for that doesn't treat me the way I want to be treated. And the way and it's not like, you know, it's not just the golden rule, it's the platinum rule. Treat others not like they want to be, not like you want to be treated. Treat others like they want to be treated. That's the platinum rule. It's different than the golden rule. Treat others like you want to treat you treat yourself. No. Platinum rule, treat others like they want to be treated. So my younger self, I would want to better embrace some of the things that I've learned, both with people that reported to me, as well as people that I reported to, because I tolerated some things that when I look back, I'm not saying that I'm going to change my boss, but I certainly could influence the way I could have been treated by what I would tolerate. Another piece of advice, when I think back to my time 30 years ago, I got to RIT in 1989. The first couple of years, I really didn't take advantage of all of the things that were available to me to do at the time. Take a yoga class, do this, go see, you know, a park. You know, I didn't really take advantage of a lot of that. I really got, I mean, I was doing track, I was doing ROTC, and by the way, engineering curriculum. But there's a whole lot that you can do as a younger person that it gets much more difficult to do later. And it wasn't that I'm saying I wasted a lot of time, but there was a lot of time that I just didn't use productively. And when I say productively, that means learning something new, growing something, meeting somebody, learning about something else. The other, and the last piece of advice is, throughout your life, throughout the advice to myself, and I will be very specific and deliberate in saying this to this audience. Never give up the passion to learn. The more you learn, and what you learn changes as you evolve, because you evolve, you grow and evolve. But once you develop those muscles to continue to learn, like you will continue to grow as a person and be more valuable to yourself, to your family, to the organizations in the community that you serve with, or oh, by the way, this place that you work that pays the bills. So three different pieces of advice that I would offer to my younger self.
That certainly resonates. Other questions for Thomas?
I have one.
Sure.
Do you find it harder to establish trust in a new group, like trusting you, or to fix trust problems within a group?
So, good question. Fixing trust problems is harder because it's broken. If I'm in a new group, and through the resume, I've changed jobs a lot. There's a certain grace period that a fairly functional group, they give you to sort of feel you out. Let's just say, you know, if you walk in the door, I'm the new boss in town, you know, they're gonna close the door, shut you down. You'll never be successful, right? But they give you typically in the organizations that I've been a part of, they give you a little bit of time to sort of to feel you out. And what I have found is when I day one approach the group with humility, explanation of team success, and start talking about the principles, not necessarily articulating it explicitly, but talking about the principles of servant leadership, that typically, for the most part, sort of puts people at ease. They don't think I'm in it for myself. There's always I talked about the assassin earlier, who's always like, yeah, but he's just interested in his own career. Well, we'll see. So I wouldn't say I have a formula, but I have a technique for doing that. A group that is dysfunctional and don't trust each other, if it doesn't matter who that new manager or leader is, they've got to work on that first. They're still going to do their job, but you'll never get the discretionary effort. You'll never achieve greatness if you don't work on that discretionary effort, because what that forces you to do is become a bad leader. If this group is dysfunctional, then you have to force them to do things. You have to threaten them. And I'm not talking about physical threats. You have to threaten them with, okay, this is going to affect your performance evaluation. That will ultimately affect your raise, right? That's a form of threat. That is a threat. And a dysfunctional group that doesn't trust themselves or you get this positional, you have to go into these positional, I shouldn't say have to. What ends up people revert to these positional kinds of stances where you better because I'm the boss, right? That's what ends up happening. And it just turns into this spiral that of I wouldn't say despair, but just really, it doesn't help the dysfunction. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did. Thank you.
Time for one more question. This has been wonderful. Anyone else? Even staff that are sitting on the call? Well, this has been wonderful, Thomas. We at RIT are so proud of you. We have learned so much today. I have, and I'm sure our student athletes have. We are a family of Tigers who are proud of you, because I know that you are still a Tiger. We love that. That's a throwback. I want to remind our student athletes that you can drop by the Ritter Arena and pick up a snack, something to drink. I know it's not lunch, but it's a healthy snack, and love to see you come by. It'll be there the rest of the day. And one more time to say thank you to Tom Peoples, a real champion, All-American, veteran, and a very, very successful person in the world of work and business. God bless you, Thomas, and take care. And everyone, take care of yourself, stay healthy, keep that mask on. And we're getting a few messages along the way.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Thanks again, Tom.
Thank you. And I'm in your phone book. I'm staff, right? So if anybody, I'm Thomas Peoples, TLP, MET@RIT.edu. If you look me up, I'm in there, pictures there and everything. So if anybody has any other questions, I technically work for you because I'm faculty.